Everyone, this is Aayush, and this video is going to be about how I prepped for the GRE in about 2.5 weeks and scored a 318 on it. A big disclaimer before I start the video: I was actually prepping for the GMAT before I gave the GRE. I gave my first attempt for the GMAT in March of 2022, and I absolutely bombed it because I gave it in like 3 weeks of prep, and I was very overconfident. And I started prepping for my second attempt in June, July. It wasn't like a full sprint; it was mostly just on and off. So I wasn't completely well versed with it, and my mock scores weren't as good as I had expected. And someone suggested me that, just take a look at the GRE, and I gave a few online mocks and I scored better than my GMAT. With the GRE, there's actually a lot of material online from multiple brands like Magoosh, Kaplan, Manhattan, etc. And it's sort of important to separate the wheat from the chaff and just focus on the main important ones. So for my prep, because it was very short, I did not have a lot of time. I mainly stuck to the most important ones: the official guide for quant, the official guide for verbal, and the Manhattan 5-point book. For AWA, what I used, ETS website. So if you have this one question and they have answers for, say, how a score 6 might look like, answer for how a score 5 might look like, I'll attach everything in the description below. For asking doubts and also looking out for newer, better questions, you can also refer to the GRE Prep Club. For vocabulary, just stick to 800 to 1000 words. You do not have to learn so many words. So for me, I actually used the Barron's 800 words list. There's actually a lot of flashcards out there. You can use the Magoosh flashcards as well. There's Manhattan Prep 1000 words as well. For me, to be very honest, after using all of these different flashcards, Barron's was the best, and I'll attach all of them in the description so you can take a look. The Barron's one I am attaching also has the meanings as well as example in a sentence for every single word, so it's much better and faster to understand. So what I noticed was that a lot of online prep materials, especially from Manhattan or Magoosh, tend to focus more on the meaning of the word than the meaning of the sentence and what sense it makes. So after I gave the official mock tests from ETS Power Prep 1 and 2, I noticed that the words weren't as difficult, but the overall meaning of the sentence and how the word fits into it was the whole game. More than anything else, if you're prepping for the text completion and sentence equivalence, you can actually use the official guides more. You can also use the Manhattan 5-point book, but the best practice can only be done, to be very honest, from the official guides. Your prep time might differ from when your college applications actually start. I was applying to ISB YLP, so I had only about 2 weeks of time left before I had to submit my scores. But if you have enough time, I'd suggest you take at least 1 to 2 months before you give the GRE, because it will take a lot of time, especially if you're working or if you are in college. You might have to sort of juggle between everything at the same time and then prep for the GRE as well. The GRE will require a lot of focus. It's not as easy as people say, and getting a good score, especially over 320 or 325, is not very easy. So when I was prepping for the GRE, it was just like, get up in the morning, do GRE all day, and then sleep. And just repeat that over the 2.5 weeks and then give the GRE, because it's important to go into that state of mind as well to be able to attempt a 3.5, almost 4-hour paper, including all the breaks and the extra section as well. It's important to prep yourself mentally as well to attempt the test. Now, about the mocks, I actually gave only 2 mocks on the official ETS website. Power Prep 1 is slightly easier than the real GRE, and Power Prep 2 is slightly more difficult. So I gave the Power Prep 1 test in about 5 days, I think, of prep, and I only scored a 311 on it, and I was very disappointed. I gave the Power Prep 2 in about 4 or 5 days more, and I scored 317. But again, Power Prep 2 was way more difficult than the Power Prep 1 test, and then I actually scored 318 on the official test as well. I also gave a bunch of paper test mocks from the official guide from ETS, and I actually was scoring almost a 161 in my verbal and about 164, 165 in my quants. I actually gave the online GRE because there was no test center available near me. A lot of my friends actually went to Bangalore for it. I was in college in Manipal, so I just decided to give the online test. I was very apprehensive of it at first. There are some things that you need to sort of figure out to decide if you want to give the online test or go to an offline center. So number one, no writing material is obviously allowed, and nothing on the desk is allowed. They only allow you your laptop, but you can also use a laptop stand, which I did use. You can use your mouse, and you can also have a water bottle. The official website and everything else says that you can't, but it depends on the invigilator at that day, and if he or she allows you, you can go ahead with it. You also need an identity verification. Depending on your country, you can look it up of what is accepted. For India, just use your passport, to be very honest. For writing, you can use a small whiteboard along with a black marker which is erasable, or they also allow you to use white sheet in transparent sheets. You can write it easily using a sketch pen. What I used were those 5 rupee small black sketch pens that you get, and they were very easy to erase as well. So you might actually think that because you're only around this small A4 sheet of paper that you might run out of space. You actually don't. During mock tests, keep it as real as possible. Practice on that sheet of paper and I think you'll be fine. For the internet connectivity, I think, which is the most important part around the online GRE, you can actually, if you have a Wi-Fi at home and there are sometimes power cuts from where you live, there's a small Wi-Fi power bank which gives you a power backup of around 3 to 4 hours. So that sort of saved me from a lot of trouble. You can only take one break, which was a 10-minute break. So you give the AWA, one question from AWA, second question from AWA. Then you have your verbal. Then you have a quant, and then you can take a break. A lot of people actually don't know this, but there's this extra section which also comes in the GRE. It's an experimental section which the GRE uses to prep future tests. There's one AWA, there's one verbal, then quant. You also have another verbal quant, and then that experimental section. All of these are in different orders. It can be different for everybody. AWA is obviously first, but the rest the order could be different. The experimental section could be a quant or a verbal. You actually don't know in the test if you're giving an experimental section or the real one. So to be very honest, just attempt it as you might do on the real GRE. A lot of people actually don't talk about is the mental aspect on the GRE or even the GMAT or any other entrance exam. So I'm from India, where we've given a lot of entrance exams to get into college, and this was technically supposed to be another entrance exam, but it was indeed very stressful. So one thing I would say is, do not equate your GRE mock scores with yourself. It is important, but it's not the only thing that matters, and it is definitely not required to put yourself in mental distress around your scores. Okay? You will get it eventually. For the GRE, I think it is very important to prep yourself mentally for the 3.5, almost 4 hours exam, because I did not actually stop studying. I was just studying until the last day I was giving mocks then, and I think that was a big mistake, because what honestly happens, it depends on the kind of person you are. Some people are very good if you keep giving mocks till the exam. For me, I think I'm much more of a person who is better at relaxing a few days before the exam, say 3-4 days, and just give it and don't study at all. For me, what happened on the day of the exam was that on the verbal especially, the first section of verbal that I got, I did not do well on it. So my mind sort of just went blank. I was not able to understand what the question said, and I absolutely bombed it. But I realized that at that point that this verbal section should not affect the other sections on the test. And the next quant section I did better, then the next verbal, then the quant, and then I got an experimental section at the end. So just because of that one first verbal section is why I got almost 5 points less than I was scoring on my mock. So on my mocks I was scoring almost a 160, 161 on my verbal, but I only got a 155 on the test day. The GRE is a section adaptive test. So your second verbal section will be based on what the first verbal section score was and how you performed on it, and the same goes for quant. So that's it from my side, and if you have any queries, any doubts, you can comment down below and I'll try and answer them. You can also actually look at Reddit forums and GRE Prep Club for any doubts around the GRE or any questions, and they usually have a large question bank, so it might also be very helpful for you. That's it from me. Bye.